good to go?
Yeah.
Well, good afternoon. My name is Patrick McGonagle. I'm the Managing Director of a local company called PACFA. I have to say I'm actually very relieved because when Joe Kenny asked me to do this, I thought he would ask me to do a TikTok. Apparently it's a tech talk. It's very good. I come from a local company, as I say, we work in the elections industry. And my first introduction to working with people who are blind or partially sighted was way back at the end of the last century, beginning around 1999-2000. I'm just going to run through that story, but I anticipated that it would be quite late in the day, and rather than talk at you, I produced these little booklets. Brian, would you just maybe pass one out to everybody, because there's some things that I'm going to refer to, and without going into a whole lot of detail, at least you have it there to take with you, and if you forget it or lose it, you can download it off our website. So the first introduction I had was when I was invited to the Home Office in London to talk about a project that was instigated by a Member of Parliament, the MP for Knowsley in Liverpool. And the terminology he used was a device of such description that would enable people who are blind or partially sighted to vote independently and in secret. I responded to the competition and I won the contract. We supplied 60,000 selector devices, which is I think it's on the inside second page here. It's a kind of an adhesive back template that adheres to a ballot paper. And we supplied just under 60,000 of those for the 2001 general election. And that went fairly well. And fast forward to 2019, and a very courageous lady called Rachel Andrews from the Broadlands constituency in Norfolk, and her pictures in here as well, I believe. She took the UK government to court on the basis that she was unable to vote independently and secretly. And the judge, Mr. Justice Swift, found very strongly in her favour, and his words were quite prophetic, and I actually have written them in the brochure so that you can read them. In simple terms, what he was saying was that it's not just a simple question of making a mark on a paper. There's also a cognitive component to this, in that you have to make a choice from the candidates who are nominated in the ballot paper, and that was a great steer. I then got back to trying to come up with a more comprehensive solution, and I created what is now known as the McGonagle Reader. It's eponymously named after me, and I did that deliberately because I'm just so proud of it. And what it does is it started off that it was going to help people with sight loss to take a ballot paper that they couldn't see and to mark it with the candidates of their choice, whether it be in England and Wales, where we use a first past the post system where you make a cross, to local government in Northern Ireland and Scotland, where we use the SDV system, where you rank candidates in order, 1 for first, 2 for second, 3 for third. So the system is now introduced, and it's working incredibly well. We have been working with UK local authorities, and we've had some amazing uptake from places like Bristol and some of the London boroughs. And it really is developing great traction, and it does work. That is the one thing I could say. That comment, it does exactly what it says on the tin. Well, this does exactly what it says in the reader. It does enable somebody who's blind, who cannot see the ballot paper, to mark that ballot paper with the selections of their choice, and to do it independently, secretly, without anybody else being involved. They then take their ballot and they post it in the ballot box, and they've done the job, which is really good. The one thing that we learned as we were going was that there were also some benefits that read across to other disability areas. Things like literacy problems, and we've done quite a bit of work, not just with RNIB, but also with NCAB, which is the National Blind Association in the Republic of Ireland, and we've worked with NALA, the National Adult Literacy Agency, excuse me, and that's for people who struggle with literacy. And the Irish actually, very interestingly put, in 1999 they introduced photographs on their ballot papers so that people with literacy challenges were able to recognise the candidate, and that helped them to make the mark in the right place. So that work is ongoing, and we've just recently signed a contract with the Irish Government to provide, these things are generically known as assistive devices, and we're going to make assistive devices available to the people of Ireland for the next 6-7 years. That's an amazing achievement. What was really interesting about the award of contract was that they decided to give us what's called a framework agreement, which means that we agreed in principle what we were going to do. We agreed in principle roughly what it was going to cost, but we decided to leave the detail of what we were actually going to manufacture to a combination of the civil servants and the blind charities, so that they could coordinate together and agree what was going to be the best way to spend the investment in what we're doing. So that's really, really good. We also have lots of customers throughout the UK, and some of the other aspects of our business, just for your interest, we make voting compartments, we make ballot boxes, we have a relationship with every Irish and British returning officer, we have distribution in the European Union, and we're in all 50 states of the Union in America. So we've been in the business now for quite a while. We're going to celebrate our 40th anniversary on the 6th of March this year, which is quite a while. So really it's a great story, and it's going to really help people with a range of disabilities to be able to vote independently and secretly. Why that's really so important, one of the concerns, I'm not a politician, but one of the concerns that the political people have is when you look at the general election, which was on the 4th of July 2024, one of the things that came out, which was quite stark, was the low voter turnout. Less than 60% gave the Labour Party a landslide victory. But there was also 19.2 million people who were registered to vote who didn't show up, who didn't turn out to vote. The conventional wisdom on that was that those people were disillusioned with politics. But the more I've gone on this journey, the more I've realised that there are so many people in society who feel barriers to access to the democratic system. And we're hoping that the McGonagle reader will help to address that. And that work is ongoing. So really, as I say, I've set out most of the key aspects of the design work and the development. And I said at the start I wasn't going to talk at you, so I'm not going to do that. What I'd like to do is just check out if any of you have any questions to see if I can drill down in any specific areas of interest. Yes.
What in your experience, what do people say the biggest barrier is for them, if, you know, when they're blind or sighted and they're coming into the
Sorry, I'm a little hard of hearing. Could you speak up just a wee bit?
Sorry, Patrick. Well, in your experience, what do people say is the biggest barrier for them when they're coming in to vote?
The biggest barrier is that without doubt, the biggest barrier is that because of the system that predates this, which is the template as it's known, they needed somebody, whether it be an election official or a companion, to tell them, because you could have a list of 12 candidates. We heard earlier today about Midlands Northwest at the European Parliament elections a year or so ago, 27 candidates. So if you're blind, how would you remember who everybody is in the order they are on the ballot? So for that, you needed really to have somebody to go through it with you, either an election official or a companion. And there, so many people have, like the lady Rachel Andrews that I mentioned earlier, the one thing that she was very, very unhappy about is that she did not want to share her selections with anybody, not even her partner. She wanted to be able to vote independently and secretly. And for me, that has been the great win on this. And one of the first people that I spoke with was Joe Kenny of RNIB Northern Ireland. And Joe came to our design studio in Donegal Road in Belfast. And within 10 minutes, he was a virtual expert on it. He knew exactly. He got it. And he was saying, this is amazing. I never thought I would be able to vote on my own without having to ask anybody. I was recalling a story earlier. One of your previous chairmen was called David Mann, and he told me that he went to a polling station and the guy was helping him make the selections, and he told the guy who he wanted to vote for, and the guy said, I wouldn't vote for that one. Unbelievable. But those are the kinds of things. Thanks for your great question. Those are the kind of things that I picked up that people find the most frustrating. With the McGonagle reader now, that overcomes that. You can be completely your own boss and select whoever you want. Whether it's first past the post that we have at the general election, be familiar here in Northern Ireland. In the UK, in England and Wales, they have parish and community councils that use a multiple vacancy system, so they could have a slate of 12 candidates with 4 vacancies. So that means they have to award 4 crosses to those people, and you just could not do that without a reader. And it's the same in Northern Ireland with STV. If you're ranking your choices, 1 for first, 2 for second, 3 for third, to be able to do that without a reader, it just wouldn't be possible. So I hope that answers your question.
It does, thank you.
Sure.
Patrick, just on the issue of logistics, you mentioned earlier on there in England that you have delivered, I think it was Bristol and some of the London boroughs. Approximately how many devices were you guys able to deliver, or how many polling booths or polling stations had them, and were you guys logistically able to deliver?
Yeah, and it's a kind of a chicken and egg situation, because we will deliver what's needed. There are certain limitations. It uses some technology that needs to be sourced offshore, and there's limitations there. But by and large, we would be able to, for example, for the next general election, if there was a significant rollout, just to give you an idea, at a general election in the UK, you would have 60,000 polling stations. So realistically, that's going to be 60,000 of these. How realistic that would be in terms of capacity, they would need to be talking to us now. But I think altogether we have about 300-400 systems out there at the moment. But there would, as I say, it's a chicken and egg. There would need to be a coming together between us and the Electoral Commission and the department to make a decision. We're going to do this. A lot of that comes down to funding. A lot of funding is devolved, so it's not a central government decision. It is actually made by the local authority, or in the case of Northern Ireland, it would be made by the Chief Electoral Officer, for example. But there's a fair demand. If it was to be rolled out nationwide, it would be a very significant demand. Could we do it in a couple of years? It would be a struggle, but we'd love the challenge.
I have a question.
Sure.
What is the business model for implementing this with the local authorities? Is it like a one-time payment that can be then used for several years?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's too early to safely predict the capacity, but we do extensive testing with everything that we make. It may sound a bit of a cliche, but we actually destroy everything we make, and we do that deliberately for very good reasons. Process engineering testing, destructive testing, so that we know what we're dealing with and what the customer will be confronted with. The last thing we want is to supply something to somebody on polling day, and something happens. It could be in Arizona at 3 o'clock in the morning our time, where there's a problem. We don't want that. So it's the same with this kind of material here. we tested very strenuously to make sure that it has longevity, and so far the results we've been getting in that have been very encouraging. So the local authority, to go back to the model question that you referenced there, that the local authority will purchase them as a capital item, and they will be used within the authority for all elections. The historical wisdom in funding in UK local elections is 2 parliamentary terms, which in theory is 10 years. We have voting booths that we made in the late 1980s that are still being used.
Wow.
So that's a testament to the whole quality ethos that we have. We're also investigating a leasing model where, because some local authorities will have capital assets, some don't. And for some, revenue budgets are easier accessible than capital budgets. So those are the kinds of ways that we're approaching it. But in terms of the lifetime of a McGonagle reader, I would be surprised if it didn't last way beyond 2 parliamentary terms.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, folks.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for your kind attention. I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed the talk.
Thanks, Ian.
Thank you.